So we're going to make soba noodle soup, is that right? And you were saying that in order to do that you've got to make stock. So this is some stock made from kombu seaweed. It's actually a little bit difficult to get this in Australia at the moment. The government placed restrictions on kombu coming from overseas because of some of them had too much iodine in them. A little bit of iodine is good for you, but apparently they had too much. So if you can't get kombu, then you can buy this, well, kombu is kelp. You can buy this powder. It's better, this is made in Australia, it's better if you can get the actual kombu because you can reuse it. So what you do is you take the kombu, soak it in water, you soak it in water and then you simmer it for about 20 minutes in the water. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so then you take it out and what's left is the kombu stock. And then if you have this kombu left over, Yukoko reuses it. So this is tsukudani. It's kombu cooked with something a little bit sweet like agave, and also is there miso? Tamari, not miso. And then you eat that and it's really delicious. So get the pieces of kombu if you can, but if not, use the kelp, and not too much, just a little bit. You can also do the same thing, make stock with shiitake mushrooms, and that's really easy. You just take the mushrooms, you soak them, and then the water that's left over becomes the stock, and you can obviously eat the mushrooms. So good, we've got stock. What's next?
That's all.
That's all for the stock. So the other thing to say, Yukoko was saying, is this is a purely vegan stock. You can make stock, and it's often done in Japan with bonito flakes. Bonito is a type of fish.
Yep.
With kombu as well. It's a bit more tricky technically to get it right, so this is the easiest way to get really good Japanese stock. So now we've got stock and we're going to boil the soba noodles.
And that stock was the mushroom one, yeah?
Yeah.
That one's mushroom and the other one is kombu.
Kombu.
Right, so soba noodles are buckwheat noodles. Now most soba noodles you buy in the shop are 80% wheat flour around about and 20% buckwheat. These are 100% buckwheat. They're really tasty and you can see they're a really dark colour. But you have to boil them a bit differently from normal pasta, because if you boil them rapidly, all the starch will come out and they'll kind of shrivel and go to mush, so it's not very good. What you need to do is simmer the water, put in the buckwheat noodles, the soba, and then turn the heat down to very low so that they're not disturbed so much. And then you boil for 10, you simmer for 10 minutes.
The another way is sometimes even keep boiling, but put cold water and then kind of cool down, and then but boil again, cool down, so we can do that.
So
that is
instead of turning
way.
the heat down, the traditional way is you put it into boiling water, but then you put cold water on top, that cools it down, then you heat it up again till it's boiling and you keep cooling it. That sounds like a lot of hard work. I reckon this works easier.
Yeah, and also if not 100% should be okay, but so 100% is this way is much safer.
Okay, so if you're not using pure 100% buckwheat soba, then the normal way is probably okay. But if you are using 100% buckwheat soba, then this is a much safer way to do it. And why do you use 100% soba?
Yes, of course tasty, but also important is gluten free.
Yeah, so I reckon it tastes much better too. But if you want gluten-free food, then the 80% wheat and 20% soba noodles won't, 20% buckwheat noodles won't do. That's why we use it. They're more expensive, but they're really good.
Yeah, so expensive.
So the noodles are cooking, and while they are, we're going to make the soup. So this is the kombu stock. Is that right?
Hi.
And this is a pre-made mix that Yukoko uses in the restaurant. It's got tamari, which is soy, and mirin, which is rice wine vinegar, and some salt. So if you're going to do this on your own at home, you can just add them individually, but for use in the restaurant, they're all together. If you don't want to use mirin, rice wine vinegar, you can use something a little bit sweet like agave, yeah?
Hi.
Good.
Yeah.
And now what are we doing with that?
Yeah, just warm up, and then so when we drain, and then we combine with noodle soup. Of course, if soba we can use for like a salad, so not have to be noodle soup.
Yep.
But so today is a little bit cool. That's why so we do. And then for topping is of course sometimes if you like meat or something, you can cook some stuff in here. But if so just vegan, so just we make separate, and then so we decorate like a branched vegetable on top.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to heat up the soup, simmer it, and then drain the noodles and put them in and eat it like that with some blanched vegetables we've got over there and we'll bring over. You could also cook meat in there if you wanted, but apparently we're vegan tonight, so we'll just do it with the vegetables and the soba, and of course you can use the soba for lots of other things like salads and...
あとね、so if we don't use everything straight away, so after drain cool down well, then we can keep in fridge.
Right, so you can store the soba in the fridge for how long?
Maybe 2-3 days.
2 or 3 days.
Then so if when we need, so when we reuse, just put in a little bit of hot water and then make soft.
Alright, so Yukako has just drained the noodles, and now is that cold water on top of them?
Yep.
To cool them down?
Yep. If we use straight away, it don't have to be cool.
Yeah.
But if so we keep them next day, so we have to completely cool down.
Right, so if you're going to use them straight away, don't worry about cooling them down completely, but if you are... no, I got that wrong, you'll have to retake it. Alright, no retakes apparently. If you're using them the next day, you have to cool them down completely, but if you're using them right now, don't worry too much. Why is that?
Yeah, because of course if don't cool down well, is of course still keep cooking, is maybe overcooking.
Oh, I got it. So they'll just overcook if you don't cool them down completely. And so they cooked about 10 minutes, is that right?
Yeah, so
how do you know when they're cooked?
you say so at first stage, but if we don't know so different brand, and then so sometimes we have to eat.
Yeah.
Then so remember, but so after we know, so we always this brand is 10 minutes, so we can do it on
So if
time.
you know the brand, you know how long, but otherwise you have to taste it, and they should be a little bit chewy, right?
Yeah.
Not too soft.
But when you do so, at first just Japanese noodles the same way, so cool down with running water and then take out the sticky side, and then back to.
Right, so you've got to cool them down first before you put them in.
Pasta is different, right? We don't rinse with water.
Yeah. So you wouldn't do this to pasta, but you have to do it with the buckwheat noodles. You've got to treat them a bit more gently. So they've gone back in the soup?
Yeah, back in soup and then re-warm again.
Okay.
This one's all Japanese style noodles, so not even udon and somen, everything same way. So if noodle and
right.
Noodle
So
soup.
you do this style. You cool them down first, and then you reheat them in the soup if you want, with every Japanese noodle, ramen and soba and udon. Yes. Anyway, that smells really good. Into the bowl.
Yep.
Oops, sorry, collision. And then into here goes blanched vegetables. So these have already been cooked a little bit, yeah? In hot water?
Yep. Hot water.
So what have we got?
Then like wakame seaweed.
Wakame seaweed.
This one is just so to soak in water, warm water. Then
So that one you only have to soak in warm water, and this is
this is spinach.
Spinach, blanched in hot water.
Yep.
And some carrot.
Yep. But of course, doesn't matter which veggie, and also sometimes also like a deep fry and marinated tofu.
Yeah.
But this one sometimes you can warm in soup.
Yeah.
Otherwise, so makes warm.
So is this one deep fried?
Deep fry and then so cooked in sauce.
Cooked in what?
So
Tamari
we call,
and
with tamari and mirin, so almost so.
yeah, almost the same.
Yeah.
So it's deep fried tofu cooked in tamari and mirin, and you can warm it in the soup if you like. But that looks really yummy.
Yay!
Are we done?
Done.
There's only one bowl. There's two of us.
There's 3 of us.
Oh, it's enough. Let's do another
We can. Why don't we get little bowls? Dinner.